The sky was dark, the wind was howling, huge waves crashed straight into the side of the ship, causing the fishing boat to rock violently in the middle of the vast ocean. On deck, fishermen were drenched in the freezing rain, their numb hands clutching the anchor rope, knowing that just a second of carelessness could see them swept into the icy water. The U.S. seafood industry brings in more than $5 billion a year, feeding an entire economy and millions of people. But few people know that to get each fish and crab on the table, thousands of fishermen have to pay with sweat, blood, and sometimes even their lives. This is a countdown of America's 10 deadliest fishing grounds. Go discover Top 10 Deadliest Fishing Grounds in America, worth over $5 billion. And we'll start at number 10, the Bering Sea, the world's largest pollock fishery. Millions of tons of pollock are pulled from these frigid waters each year, providing the raw material for fish cakes, surimi bars, and fast food chains around the world. But behind that billion-dollar fortune, the Bering Sea is also known as a deadly sea, where blizzards, high waves, and icebergs have swept away many ships. To get the pure white fish from the bottom of the sea to the table, fishermen must accept the harshest battle with nature. Arctic winds blow madly. Temperatures drop below -22 degrees Fahrenheit, causing breath to turn to ice in just a few seconds. Every time a wave hits the side of the ship, the deck is immediately covered with a thick layer of ice, slippery as a mirror. Fishermen have to use hammers and crowbars to continuously break the ice, otherwise the ship will gradually become heavier and may capsize overnight. Sudden rolling waves can sweep fishermen into the sea in an instant, where the water temperature is so low that it can paralyze the body in just a few dozen seconds. Pulling the nets is not easy. The nets weigh several tons and are pulled tightly by strong currents, forcing the crew to coordinate every second to avoid getting caught in the winch. One slip or a rope getting wrapped around them could send them plummeting into the icy water, where their chances of survival are slim. The Bering Sea, where every voyage is a gamble. The reward is millions of dollars, but the price sometimes is life. If the Bering Sea is America's giant refrigerator, then thousands of miles to the east, there is a place where millions of dollars worth of steel traps lie on the seabed. The Gulf of Maine, the capital of American lobster, $500 million a year. Become the main source of livelihood for thousands of coastal families. A fisherman can release hundreds of traps in one trip, and if lucky, just one haul can bring in a profit of several hundred to several $1,000s. During years when lobster prices were high, some fishermen earned hundreds of thousands of dollars each season, a huge sum considering the small size of their boats. They work on small wooden boats, setting out early in the morning in thick fog, dropping hundreds of heavy steel traps. Each trap is connected to the water surface by ropes dozens of feet long. And those ropes are a deadly threat. Just one slip, a foot or arm gets caught in the rope, and the fisherman can be pulled straight down to the cold seabed with no chance of escape. The Maine coast may seem calm, but winter winds can change direction in an instant, turning calm waters into raging waves. For small boats, just a strong wind is enough to make them sway and capsize, leaving behind painful stories that are still whispered by people living along the shore. As salmon season draws to a close, fishermen head to another legendary fishing ground, where thick fog hides a fishing boat graveyard, the Alaskan sockeye fishery. Every year, for just a few short weeks, tens of millions of sockeye salmon swim into the bay, creating one of the most spectacular migrations on the planet. This is the only time fishermen can collect the fish, and the value of the catch during that short season can reach millions of dollars.
Come down to the hook a little bit.
But it was the pressure of time that turned Bristol into a sea battleground. Hundreds of ships were crowded into the same narrow water area, all racing to catch as many fish as possible. The seine net stretched across the sea. The anchor lines and tow lines crisscrossed like a giant spider web. In that chaos, a half-second delay in turning the rudder could cause the ship to collide, break the mast, or capsize. On deck, the work is no less dangerous. Sailors have to pull heavy nets, which when wet can weigh up to a ton. Many fishermen have slipped, got caught in the nets, or got tangled in the ropes and been dragged straight into the cold sea. In the near-freezing waters of Alaska, the human body has only minutes before complete paralysis. And when a ship is hit hard in the rushing water, the chances of survival are almost zero.
Come down to the hook a little bit.
Bristol Bay brings red gold mine to America, but each salmon season also brings haunting. For fishermen, this trip is not only a way to make a living, but also a life and death gamble with the cold ocean. But as the engines quieted over the icy waters of Alaska, the ship's rudders turned toward another sea, New England, where cod and haddock wrote another legendary chapter in the history of American fishing. This is the place that has fed the entire northeast United States since the 17th century, with schools of cod that are considered the white gold of the Atlantic. But to hunt for this resource, fishermen must face some of the world's harshest seas. On cod fishing boats, sailors often work more than 18 hours a day, pulling in nets weighing tons, filled with fish and seawater, while the ship is constantly tossed by the waves. A A steel cable stretched to its full tension can snap suddenly, whipping the deck like a whip. Just one blow is enough to sever an arm bone or kill a sailor on the spot. On bottom trawling ships, sailors had to stand close to the edge of the deck to point the net away from the ship, where even one slip on the slippery salt spray could mean being swept straight into the sea. Thick fog turns the sea into a deadly maze. Ships sail like ghosts. Radar sometimes fails to warn of collisions. As a result, hundreds of ships were left permanently on the seabed, giving Georges Bank the nickname, the Steel Graveyard of the Atlantic. This is not just a fishing ground, but a symbol of an entire coastal civilization. Since the 17th century, when the first settlers set foot in New England, Georges Bank itself has been a source of life. The danger also comes from the winter storms themselves. Winds gusting 80 miles per hour and waves rising 50 feet are enough to swallow steelhead trawlers. There are trips where only a handful of crews return alive, a reminder that cod can feed a region, but it can also take lives at any time. Leaving the historic East Coast, we head south to Chesapeake Bay, where the tiny blue crab holds a huge fortune. Every year, this place brings in about $200 million US, but behind that number are arduous journeys that few can imagine. Chesapeake fishermen often leave the harbor at nightfall in small boats no more than 10 meters long. They set and drag hundreds of heavy crab traps, their calloused hands working for hours at a time. But what makes the job dangerous is that the sea is unpredictable. In addition, the Chesapeake's summer storms often come suddenly. A clear day can turn into a hellish mess of swirling winds and torrential rain in a matter of hours, rocking the small wooden boat violently. Many fishermen have remained forever under these waters, and their stories have become haunting reminders for those who continue to go to sea. But the pinnacle of danger still lies in the Atlantic Ocean, home to the oldest schools of swordfish, which is also the setting of the movie The Perfect Storm. For centuries, this place has witnessed not only giant swordfish, but also the survival battles of fishermen, where fishermen have to fight not only with swordfish, but also with fierce seas, sudden storms, and dangerous accidents that always lurk. To catch swordfish, fishermen must go out to sea for weeks, even months, navigating simple wooden boats in the vast ocean, where waves can reach 65 feet high and winds blow so strong that the boats face the risk of capsizing. Swordfish, a large fish that can grow to over 10 feet long and weigh up to 1,100 pounds, are difficult to catch and especially dangerous when hooked. When hooked, swordfish shoot out of the water at lightning speed. In some terrible accidents, swordfish have charged onto the deck with such force that they instantly punctured the hull, flooding the ship and leaving the fishermen fighting for their lives. They can pierce the wooden hull of a ship like a knife, causing fatal injuries, leaving many fishermen unable to react. It's not just swordfish that pose a threat. The Atlantic Ocean can change dramatically, from clear blue skies to a raging storm in just a few hours. Sailors struggle to keep their ships steady in the huge waves, with seawater flooding the decks and the risk of capsizing them. This is a life-or-death experience that fishermen face every time they set sail. However, after the storms of the Atlantic, another life-or-death journey awaits in the North Pacific, where giant halibut, more than 7 feet long and weighing 400 to 800 pounds, turn this sea into a lucrative and dangerous arena for fishermen. The North Pacific Ocean is famous not only for its giant halibut that brings in hundreds of millions of dollars, but also because fishing here is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. To catch flounder, fishermen must drop kilometers-long fishing lines into the sea, strung with thousands of sharp hooks. But just a moment of carelessness, this giant line can turn into a deadly trap. It wraps tightly around the legs or arms, then is pulled violently by the flounder or the current, and the person is swept straight down to the icy seabed in the blink of an eye. There were no second chances, no time to resist. It all happened as fast as a gasp. On deck, every jerk from a 100-pound fish can cause the deck to slide, lines to tangle, and any distracted crew member to disappear over the rail. In this fishing ground, the difference between a full hold and sudden death is a matter of seconds. If the halibut in the North Pacific can cost a fisherman his life with just a single line, then in the North Atlantic, the danger comes from the giant tuna nets, where every jerk of the steel cable is enough to turn the deck of the ship into a battlefield. This is where schools of silver white mackerel swim in giant masses and is also known as the most dangerous fishing ground in the world. To hunt for fish that bring in hundreds of millions of dollars each season, fishermen must drop into the sea nets and trawls weighing dozens of tons. When reeling in the net, each steel cable is as tight as a guitar string. If one slips their hand or stands in the wrong position, their entire body can be wrapped up and pulled down into the cold sea in an instant. The deck then turns into a battlefield. Water floods, the net is wet and slippery, and fish thrashes, making the fishermen stagger on the narrow deck. Every swing of the crane, every screech of the cable carries the threat of broken bones and loss of life. In this fishing ground, a full hold means constant danger, and any moment of distraction can turn the trip into the last. If mackerel in the North Atlantic confronts fishermen with nets weighing tons and steel cables stretched like death traps, then further away in New England, the challenge is even more severe for bluefin tuna, promising huge profits while dragging people into a long battle in the middle of the fierce ocean. Bluefin tuna is considered the blue gold of the ocean, bringing in hundreds of millions of dollars each year. A giant tuna can sell for tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars at auctions, turning each trip into a huge economic gamble. But to reach that profit, fishermen must drift for weeks in the middle of the Atlantic, where sudden storms can turn the sea into towering walls of waves. "59. Bluefin tuna not only weigh 600 to 1,000 pounds, but are also extremely aggressive. When hooked, they lunge with enough force to pull steel lines taut, knocking sailors off slippery decks. Every time we wrestle with a fish, it is a life-and-death battle where fishermen must both keep their bait and their lives against the power of the ocean. In this fishing ground, a full hold of fish means huge profits, but also contains dangers lurking every minute. But the pinnacle of danger lies further north, where iron traps heavier than a car wait on the icy seabed. Nowhere can beat the Bering Sea king crab fishery, which can be worth up to $1 billion a season. But in exchange for that treasure, fishermen must face one of the most dangerous fishing grounds on the planet. "50-foot waves could sink a ship in an instant, while 800 to 900-pound traps were hoisted onto the icy decks. If left unattended, the giant cages could crush bones or hurl sailors into the sub-zero sea. The freezing temperatures make wet clothes stiff, hands numb. Every slow movement is a death sentence. Dozens of fishermen have lost their lives here every year, making the king crab fishing profession the most harsh symbol of the sea. This is not just a job, but a relentless war with nature, where the line between wealth and death is only a few fragile seconds. This is the deadliest fishing ground in America. We have just completed a journey through America's 10 most challenging fishing grounds, where the ocean brings in more than $5 billion in value, but also causes immeasurable loss. Sign up for a godiscover to continue joining us on adventures in the wild ocean. where humans constantly test their limits.